Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, KBOI. This is Dylan Stalker, the Great Idaho Show, which you hear every week here. The Great Idaho Show, what I think is great about Idaho. And what you are about to hear is a conversation between myself and Sheriff Scott Turner of Boise County. Before we get to this conversation, we don't want to forget our sponsor, Old Arms of Idaho. They are your ambassadors to America's heritage, firearms, Western, and military. Think of them like the Antique Roadshow for all that good stuff. And if you have a question, you have a curio, a relic, they are the estate transition specialist. Check them out, oldarmsofidaho.com and the 24-hour gun show. So we're going to get right into this. What is happening today is I'm kicking off a series where my goal over the next many weeks is to talk to every single sheriff in Idaho who's willing to participate in the Great Idaho Show. I'm going to go to something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is Boise County. I live there. I experience it. I drive between Boise County and Ada County multiple times a week. I live in a recreation zone. I see what is happening in Boise County. And my first invite is Sheriff Scott Turner to talk about Boise County. And for all the listening audience, while there are many people here in the Treasure Valley and all the great 50,000 watt flamethrower of KBOI listening all over the place, the ears that I hope to have listening today are the residents of Boise County, because we are the taxpayers of a county that are struggling to fund the safety and security of tons of people that are coming into our county and through our county to experience it. And we'll get into some of that. But Scott, welcome to the program, good sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. Thanks for joining me. It is a mission. It is a historical reflection of what's happening in being a sheriff in Idaho. But before we get through what could be a pretty long conversation, let's get to know you a little bit, Scott. You know, there's a lot of Boise County residents that know that name. They see Sheriff Scott Turner, but where did your Idaho story begin? What brought you to Boise County law enforcement?
So my Idaho story began when I was about 15 years old. My family moved to Idaho from Washington, and we moved to Idaho City, and I went to school there, graduated school.
Straight into small town America, yep. Idaho City. Started
working, and then I had a friend that worked for the sheriff's department in the jail, and he convinced me to work in the jail part-time in 1998. I became a reserve deputy in 1999, spent 30, 40 hours a week as a reserve deputy working for free, plus a full-time job.
Yeah.
I became the chief of police of Idaho City in 2000. I was a chief of police there for almost 14 years. And then moved back over to the sheriff's department as a patrol sergeant, and then ultimately sheriff.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing sheriff's got to be one of the toughest elected official jobs ever. What does being a sheriff in this county mean to you?
Being a sheriff it's important to me. I care about Boise County. I care about the people a lot, and at the time that I took over as sheriff, I kind of saw what was going on, saw the direction things were going, and thought that I could make a difference. And so I threw my name in the hat, and we've hit the ground running.
Yeah,
ever
absolutely.
since. I mean, I've had a lot of obstacles that a lot of previous sheriffs haven't had to deal with, between the, COVID and all the other things like that that's happened since, 2019, 2020.
Sure. Yeah, that's just a shift, man. That's just overwhelming.
They were challenging, and things that no other sheriff had really ever dealt with. And, so it's hard to reach out and ask anybody, hey, how do you handle this? How do you do this? And because everybody is just like, oh, we don't know.
Yeah.
But we've managed to get through and come out on top, and we just keep going.
When you took the job, you have this concept in your mind, sheriff, what does that mean? And then all of a sudden, what surprised you the most? You had a thought, and then you were there's a surprise in there.
I would have to say what surprised me the most is just how, you can't make everybody happy.
Yeah,
as a sheriff, you want to make everybody happy. You take it personal when somebody calls and complains about some of your people or yourself or the job that you're doing. And It's just one of those things that you have to overcome and realize that you're not going to make everybody happy. As long as you're doing right by the people that elected you, you're holding true to your values and your ethical oath, that's all you can do. And people can accept that or they can't.
I mean, you're protecting two sides of it all when you've got your crew. I mean, they're out there seeing the things of a rural county in a very challenging, adventurous county. And you've got, I don't know, tens of thousands of people coming from other places to come and enjoy this. And I focus on tax. I'm a constitutionalist, right? This is what are our taxes paying for? Yeah. And these folks aren't paying any tax driving through and doing all this stuff. I've got to imagine things have changed quite a bit since you started.
They have. For example, say in 2020, we averaged, and prior, we had, between 3,200, 3,500 calls a year. Now we push 10,000 plus.
Man.
With the same amount of staff.
Yeah, right.
And so what people don't realize is just how much we don't have.
Yeah.
I have 9 patrol deputies. I have 3 school resource officers. I have a full-time detective, myself, and my chief deputy. The school resource officers work patrol in the summer to help fill that gap when school's not in session. But, we don't even provide 24-hour coverage. We can go home. They're required to be on call, and we call them out in the middle of the night if we need them, including myself.
Yeah, I mean, you're just on the road. I see you, Scott. I pass you by.
Last summer, I worked, 84 days straight?
Yeah.
Because of the fire season without a day off.
Oh, my goodness.
Just because, I can't afford to take patrol guys away from a busy county with such an increase in calls to handle these things when I can handle them and they can go out and continue to take care of the people.
I mean, summing it up, you've got, it's about incident response. It's about response times, right? You've got number of contacts and your ability to respond to that. Your contacts have more than doubled. And I'm assuming that your budget hasn't more than doubled and your amount of people and tools and equipment has doubled. I mean, what keeps you up at night?
I mean, everything. Everybody dreads that phone call of one of your guys getting hurt.
Sure.
Or something like that. The big challenge, our guys, they face a lot of things that other departments don't face. Other rural departments do understand this, but, we hire new people and we tell them, you're on your own. You can be on your own for 45 minutes before help arrives.
Yeah.
And so you got to be able to figure it out.
You got to have your own back in some of those scenarios, right?
Sometimes you got to pull on your big boy pants and realize, when to fight and when not to fight and live to fight another day sometimes.
Yeah, I can't even, and that's professionalism. Every show you will hear me talk about professionalism, and it's just a reflection from the sheriff to the deputies. Professionalism is do what is right when nobody's looking at all times and have the public in mind and use proper language and just, man, that's a lot of heavy pressure.
Well, and that's what I tell my deputies. I'll always have your back. Just do what's right.
Yeah.
Stop and think about what it is you're doing, and is what you're doing the right thing to do? Is it the right thing that's going to benefit whoever you're helping or the population of the county or anything like that? Just don't go out there and be the Gestapo. Go out there and do your job, but do it right.
And
be professional.
Right?
We're always going to have those times where, and I have this conversation with people all the time on officer complaints. There's always going to be that time where you kind of have to use foul language or you got to yell at somebody or something like that. But just because that's how they understand things. But for the most part, 99% of the time, be professional, be respectful.
Just do the right thing, right? It's in the gut. Yep. We all know it.
We all took the same oath. Do it the right way.
I'm going to hit you with something before we transition into this next segment. This is Dylan Stalker, the Great Idaho Show. For all you radio listeners, we're talking to Sheriff Scott Turner of Boise County. We hope that every Boise County resident has an opportunity to hear this in about 1 minute. If someone someone's only view of law enforcement comes from the news or social media, what do you wish they knew about your day-to-day reality?
Things aren't always what they see on TV.
Yeah.
And that is a huge problem for all law enforcement and first responders. I think there's a huge false sense of security and reality out there when it comes to first responders on all ends of the spectrum.
Like they're carrying so much weight, and the weight of the image is almost as much as just being there.
Yeah. Yes. And people don't realize the things that we see, the things that we deal with day to day, every day.
Yeah. Well, that's actually, Scott, a really great transition, because this next segment, again, we're talking to Boise County Sheriff Scott Turner. This is Dylan Stalker, the Great Idaho Show. We're going to talk to Scott about roads, wrecks, and resources in this next segment. We hope you all tune in for this Boise County conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Great Idaho Show, sponsored by Old Arms of Idaho. They are your collectible firearms, Western and military specialists. oldarmsofidaho.com, the 24-hour gun show, ambassadors to America's heritage. We are talking to the people in the ears of Boise County, Idaho. You know, this county that everybody skips right over in thought when they're thinking about getting up to North Idaho. It's as if we don't exist. We're talking to Scott Turner, Sheriff Scott Turner of Boise County. And in this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about roads, wrecks, and resources. And just before this segment came on, Scott, there was a thought of the commissioners or folks saying or suggesting, hey, just go write more tickets and you can get more officers. That's just, there's something wrong in that.
Yes, there's a huge misconception about writing tickets, enforcement, revenue, and where that money actually goes and how much of it we actually see. I mean, so in the big scheme of things, municipal police departments, they get 90% of an infraction fine amount.
Okay.
A county sheriff's department gets 3%.
What?
And so you take a $90 speeding ticket, and because I looked this up before I came in here today so I could double check.
Please.
The fine portion of a $90 speeding ticket is $33.50.
That is...
I get 3% of that. The rest of it goes to, Idaho Police Officer Standards and Training, judges' retirement, justice fund to help fund courts, other things, $10 here, $5 there. And so the reality of it is it costs the taxpayer money to have deputies out there doing a traffic enforcement. Now we do it because it's our job and we'll always do it. Yeah. It's the right thing to do. But when people say, well, you just need to write more tickets or haven't you met your quota yet? The reality of it is tickets don't pay our salaries. Tickets don't pay for much of anything.
Yeah. I mean, look at that difference. You said 90% to a municipal police force and you're down to 3% off $100. That doesn't pay.
We're down to 3% off of $33.50.
Or off of $33.50, even worse than that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're having this conversation, Scott, because I think that no matter what in the next 5-year period, next 10-year period, your challenge is only getting worse. And we're going to be left with some literal safety and security disaster for the real residents, the real people that live in Boise County that I dare I say that more than 50%, more than 75% of your budget is spent policing up people who don't pay their general tax in that county. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I mean, we deal with our fair share of residents, but, in the summertime, it used to be only in the summertime. Now it's year round.
Yeah.
Where we have the recreationalists and the visitors and the travelers and the passer-throughs and everything else. And so, I mean, we used to see a downtime in the kind of the fall, winter. We don't see that anymore. Now we're just, guns out all year round.
Yeah.
Just to the sheer amount of people.
I was talking to Sheriff Kevin Caperi of Adams County, and he was just like, yeah, when, and like you and I, when we grew up, to go drive over Horseshoe Bend Hill or come over these passes, you had to prepare, and the odds of a flat tire or of an overheating radiator or something kind of kept the people out. But now we've got, $100,000 diesel trucks that are driving 85 miles an hour, pulling some 20,000 pound trailer as if they don't exist. And it just puts people out into the adventure zones.
Yep. Everybody has to go out and do something.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, yeah, people buy campers, they buy off-road vehicles, they buy all the toys. Some of them, a majority of them, don't know how to use them or use them responsibly. And so they come up and they cause problems and leave garbage and tear up land and resources.
Well, I hope that this conversation, I know the residents of Boise County understand this, especially the ones that have to suffer driving into other counties to make their daily life work. You know, we're just trying to get back and forth. It isn't all just an adventure for us all the time. I hope this opens up some thoughts for people to get forward for and really start thinking about where your budget is generated from, and just writing tickets ain't cutting it.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of our budget is funded through property taxes. I mean, we have other revenues, driver's license fees, 911 fees, things like that. My department is made up of 6 different budgets. You know, I have general operations budgets, I have E911 budget, I have a vessel budget because we have a boat program on the lake in the summer.
Oh, sure.
I have reserve budget because I have reserve deputies and a few other budgets. And so they're all made up of various different revenues, from driver's license fees to registration fees to 911 fees, and majority of it, those property tax.
Yeah, and that's a challenge in of itself, Chris out there managing. That is a challenge in the property tax because of you have the second homers that are claiming primary residences on this stuff to save money, some stuff going on. So
absolutely, and the state hasn't made it any easier by changing, you know, property tax laws to help better the large municipal areas, but we have found it to be detrimental to rural areas. You know, growth is supposed to pay for itself.
Sure.
And by legislatures limiting like the amount of new construction roll that the assessor can take in property taxes, and limiting, you know, those to such small percentages hurts us.
Yeah.
Because even though we're a small county, we don't grow at the rate of, say, Ada County, but we do grow. I mean, we have Avamore, we have developments going on in Horseshoe Bend, and
it's coming faster by the minute too.
And so the little bit of growth that we do have, we need that money to sustain and keep services going. And by limiting the amount of property tax that we can take on that new growth is a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I've made a point, you know, I've built some relationships of some actual Boise County residents, and I'm just like, what's your number one concern? A lot of them are older. You were talking in between the segments about the generational differences, and we have quite an older generation that lives in a, you know, a lot of people want to get closer to the hospital. Well, they stayed hundreds of miles away from a hospital, you know, and how did your department have to shift resources to deal with all the increased search and rescue, but also you got to keep the residents in mind. Sometimes you get 5 different things happening at once. I'm sure in the last 2 weeks it's been going on.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. This year has been really hard, especially this summer with the increased traffic volume on Highway 55 and the number of crashes. It just becomes a balancing act of calls for service and prioritizing those calls. And fortunately, my deputies and my sergeants, they do a pretty good job. I mean, we don't always get it right.
Yeah.
We'll be the first to admit that, but we try, and, you know, they look at those calls. We've instilled some things and put things in place to help us in the last few years since I've taken over by, you know, having computers in the patrol cars, changing our dispatch CAD systems and things like that. So deputies can see calls from their phone. They can see them from their truck. They can essentially do everything in their truck that they can do at the office remotely. And by doing that, it puts more deputies out there on the road, more time on the road. I mean, we always have that office time of booking in evidence and doing some things like that.
Sure.
And downloading body cameras. But, you know, a guy can spend all 12 hours out in his truck and punch in notes and reports and
try to do a good job.
And try to do a good job. And, I mean, he can he can see who's calling in on this call and give them a call and be like, hey, I'm on my way, but it's going to be a couple hours. I got this, and this in front of you, and so it just becomes that balancing act.
So this one just came to me, but how does that relationship with you and Idaho State Police work? You used to have Mike up in Lowman, but it's like, hey, I've got a fire here. I need some help. Like whatever it is. Can you give them a shout?
We do. We try to call them. I mean, if we have a major fatality accident or something like that, we call them and ask them to help us out. They help us out with Bogus Basin in the wintertime quite a bit. And recently I've reached out to the colonel and the captain at ISP trying to get some help with Highway 55 just because it is
Idaho State
atrocious.
Police, my opinion, I'm not a sheriff. I don't work in legal. I don't do any of that, but there could definitely on the Thursdays, Fridays, and Mondays have a black and white Idaho State Police officer driving up and down that road, at least assisting y'all. I mean, it's just amazing.
And I would agree. I mean, we did a couple news segments recently, one with Channel 6, one with Channel 7, trying to get some awareness out there, trying to spark some things of getting the state police to help us.
In mind,
right? And since then, I've had to make some calls and, talk to the colonel and have some not so pleasant conversations, of like, hey, the citizens of my county are suffering because my deputies are spending an absorbent amount of time dealing with highway issues rather than county resident issues and calls. I mean, we have the same traffic complaints and the same traffic issues on our county roads that we do on the state highways.
For sure.
And so, it's like, hey, you guys need to help us. You have 3 resident troopers that live in Valley County. You have all these troopers that live in Boise. Send them up on the weekend. Make them come up and help us. And to be fair, they are working on that. And they're trying, and we're communicating. And so, and that's just happened recently. So we'll see how that plays out.
You've got all these, what do you call this policing fiefdoms, right? That either support each other or they don't. I mean, you could just have a straight up person that just like, no, I'm not helping Scott Turner, instead of, I don't believe that happens, but man, it does across the country somewhere.
It does.
Because there's a beef going on or something.
You get some grumpy people that show up and, well, we shouldn't have to come up here and help. And it's like, yeah, you do. I mean, we help out other counties that surround us. We help out Valley County. We help out Custer County. And there's just a trade there back and forth. They're all rural counties in the same position that I'm in. And if I can help them, I'll help them. And same back towards me.
And that's camaraderie. This is Dylan Stalker, the Great Idaho Show. We'll be right back with Sheriff Scott Turner of Boise County. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Gosh, I love ladies and gentlemen. When can we get back to ladies and gentlemen, right? My goodness, this is Dylan Stalker, the Great Idaho Show. Today, I am hoping that the ears of this program are majorly from Boise County. This is your sheriff, Scott Turner, and myself, a resident of Boise County, who I'm seeing it from my eyes, what's happening, and I see some pretty major problems when it comes to being a sheriff and having the budget that it needs to not just take care of the county itself, but all of the people that are pouring through this county trying to get to the other side or just adventuring in it. The taxpayers of Boise County are footing the bill, and I can assure you that Scott Turner doesn't have the budget to do what is needed, which should just be primarily for the Boise County residents. But hey, we're in America, and safety and security is in the boundaries of your county. And Scott, you signed up, my friend. You took the bait, and you've got a lot of people coming through your town, my friend.
Yep, it's a challenge, but it's a welcome challenge.
Well, I appreciate that, and I've engaged with you a few times. It's not like we know each other, but I'm up in Lowman, and you've got some extremities of the county that you service where you're just like, man, that's 150 miles away from my nearest deputy. We'll be there in a couple hours, and the times I've needed you to be there, you came up. I appreciate that, and I know it's a challenge. But let's do a little bit about county justice. The heart of the job. The sheriff is it's more than a badge. You have some relationships that you are here to take care of in Boise County, and it's the livers. It's the taxpayer. What What kinds of calls are becoming more common in your communities outside of just the traffic knuckleheads that are rolling through?
I mean, yeah, we have all the crashes and the traffic complaints, but a lot of our complaints anymore are neighborly complaints, property disputes, things like that. Just people not being neighborly.
Yeah.
And talking to their neighbors. People don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of things can be settled by a face-to-face conversation, but nobody does that anymore. Everybody gets on social media and keyboard warriors it out,
man, yeah,
whatever, and or they expect it to be a law enforcement problem when it's not a law enforcement problem. And so we have a ton of neighbor disputes, property line disputes, things like that.
Let's throw that out there. Let's talk about that a little bit more, because if you could avoid one of the 10,000 phone calls that are coming in off of sending out one of your 9 deputies to go and resolve a dispute that never should have happened. I mean, what do you have some examples that maybe somebody's like, well, maybe I won't call because now they heard us talk about it?
Well, a lot of people, they fuss over property lines, even though they have their property surveyed, right?
Yeah,
the line's the line.
It's a pretty much perfected
and
system.
Some people, they refuse to accept that answer. So, they start pulling survey stakes out and building fences or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
And a lot of it just boils down to applying some common sense.
Yeah.
And deal with your stuff. Go over and talk to your neighbors, shake hands. I, for one, would not want to buy a house in Garden Valley for $1 million just to fight with my neighbor.
Oh my goodness. It is like, what are we doing all this for, right?
Exactly, but it's becoming more and more and more of a problem.
Well, yeah, I can see that, because you have people that they're moving to a place like Boise County to get out of this, whatever that it was that they were living in, usually a city, or they've retired, and it's like the old Wild West, this is my water, this is my boundaries, and no trespassing. And
yep. People come up there and it's like all bets are gone, right? They think that the laws don't apply, that there's a whole separate thing of rules.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. We have the same laws, we have the same rules as anywhere else. We all choose to live in a different lifestyle by living in rural areas and being a little more self-sufficient, but
sure,
the rules and the laws are still there, and the expectation of humans to act like humans is still there.
But like it seems like people are just assuming the worst first.
They
right?
do.
Like the concept of neighborly. I love the word neighbor. I've had some of the greatest neighbors ever, and it's like, they're keeping an eye on your place while you're gone, and and it just, the boundaries are getting drawn down to the property line.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not everybody. There's a lot of places and a lot of neighbors that are neighborly and they handle their stuff amongst themselves, but we do have a very high percentage that just people are not neighborly anymore.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because it takes time away from other calls that are more important, but the reality of it is it may not be a law enforcement problem, but it still requires a deputy to make a phone call or respond to a residence or, show up and try to keep the peace or try to come up with some sort of, mutual understanding to solve a problem, or at least, guide them in a direction. And it just takes away from what it is that we're supposed to be out there doing.
There's only so much time in the day. You only got so many resources. This is kind of a state of the county type conversation. I grew up in rural Idaho, and meth and drugs was a real thing. In Hagerman, Idaho, if you didn't live in town specific, throw a rock, you could probably find some rock out there, not to make a joke out of it, but have you experienced anything? What other subjects are you trying to work with?
We have drug problems just like any other place. We've done some things to help combat those things. I have a part-time investigator and some people that are dedicated to doing nothing but drug enforcement.
Sure.
Since we've started that program, we've done multiple grand jury indictments, multiple search warrants on people selling drugs in the county or bringing drugs in the county to sell. One of my deputies just the other day on a traffic stop recognized all the signs and pulled trafficking amounts of cocaine out of a pickup that was going through our county to Valley County.
I saw that on your on your Facebook page.
We've got 2 canine dogs now, one on each patrol team, and those guys, they can find drugs every day. And so we're really trying to clean up that end of it in the county and trying to really combat that, because it is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem everywhere in America.
Well,
right?
I mean, it is, but I mean, with drugs come, violent crimes, property crimes. A lot of those crimes stem from either drug addiction or some sort of whatever dealing with drugs. And so if we can combat drugs, we can combat these other things as well.
Yeah, and I think there's, like, all of what our conversation is today is that this is the status today. It's only going to become more fast and furious, especially when you get that conversation of, all of a sudden Idaho gets some of that federal land and all of a sudden puts a bunch of more people in there. I mean, I think 98% of all the land in Boise County is owned by state or federal. There's only so much ground to own, but
yeah, I think we're like 77% public land,
is it
whether
public?
it be state or federal. But, with that comes its other challenges as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine. Another question for you, as you are the sheriff of Boise County, you manage a jail. How's the jail doing? Are you able to keep up, just generally?
Yeah, so we contract with Ada County for a jail. We used to have a jail in the county. They got rid of that years ago.
That was something I wasn't aware of as a Boise County resident. So.
And a lot of people say, well, you need to have a jail again. And then the reality of it is the taxpayers of Boise County could not afford a jail.
Sure.
In order for, if I was to have a jail and to meet the existing jail standards and to staff a jail and meet, you got to have medical, you got to have this and all these things.
Overwhelming.
You're probably looking at another couple $1 million a year in budget versus I contract with Ada County. We pay between $225,000 to $300,000 a year in inmate housing.
Yeah.
And the drive time, whether it's to drive from Horseshoe Bend to Idaho City, if we had a jail in Idaho City, or vice versa, is the same as just driving one down to Boise and sticking them in the Ada County jail. And they assume all the liability.
Yeah.
For a sheriff, the jail is the number one liability when it comes to risk management, because people sitting in jail have nothing better else to do other than
they're always commiserating, right? They're always
read books and try to figure out ways to sue or whatever. And so, it definitely benefits the taxpayers of Boise County with what we're doing right now.
That's positive. That's good to hear. That's funny. I had such an assumption there. I never had to worry about where the jail was because I don't do jaily type stuff. But it's good to hear you have a partner in Ada County for that.
Yeah, and we have contracts, with Canyon County, but our primary contract is with Ada County.
Yeah. How about dispatch system?
Dispatch, we struggle every once in a while just keeping dispatchers because of the type of work and things like that.
It's hard to employ for every business in Boise County. It's hard to maintain employment with folks. There's such
it's hard
a small
to find
pool.
people that want to work.
Yeah.
Nobody wants, or, they're willing to work, but they have 20 stipulations that come along with that.
Sure.
But we do pretty good. I mean, our dispatch, we have 7 dispatchers. That includes a supervisor. A lot of the times there's only one dispatcher in dispatch. We try to schedule, 2 dispatchers during those heavy call times.
Yeah.
But, they hold their own, and I could never do that job full time. I sit in there and help them out so they can have a bathroom break or get some lunch, or when things are getting out of hand, I'll go in there and answer phones and talk on the radio. But, it's just one of those thankless jobs that nobody thinks about.
Yeah.
But I greatly appreciate them. I mean, they're where it all starts. When you call 911, the first voice that you hear is that voice. Yeah,
the air can turn cold real fast when you pick up that phone and hear what's going on the other end of it.
Yep.
Can't even imagine. That leads me to a question. I don't know if people really realize, Scott, how many hours are you putting in every week, buddy? It's 24/7. You're sleeping with this on your mind.
I do. I mean, my phone rings all hours of the day and night. every day of the week, even if I'm out of town, which I'm not out of town very often, it still rings. Me being me, if somebody calls me at 10 o'clock at night or sends me an email, I'm going to either email them back or call them back. They're going to get a response.
Sure.
Just because I feel, that's my job.
Yeah.
People expect to hear from me, and I'm gonna answer them back.
I mean, I got to say, last year, my family, we experienced a Wapiti fire. We lost property. We partnered with the Federal Forest Service system of fighting fires with our ground to support another part of that fire with water and all this stuff. And I had a concern over water, and you took the time out of your day to come up and look at it. I'll throw people out there a thought for you of what I've experienced from you is that you will get a response from Scott Turner, but it might be one sentence. Don't assume that's because he doesn't care. It's just that he respects you and he doesn't have enough time to type out a letter to every single response.
Yeah. You will get a response. Sometimes it'll be short. Sometimes it'll be long. Sometimes you won't like the response, but
yeah,
that's just the way that it works, right? But you will get a response. You will hear from me. People call me all the time. Hey, can you come over to Garden Valley or can you come over to Horseshoe Bend? I want to meet with you and talk to you.
Yeah,
absolutely. I work for the people. I am there for the people.
Sure.
Anytime, day or night.
Well, we're talking to Sheriff Scott Turner of Boise County. We hope Boise County, which is by far KBOI is the preferred radio station of Boise County because we get it up there and it's a good one too. This is Dylan Stalker, the Great Idaho Show, sponsored by Old Arms of Idaho, your ambassadors to America's heritage collectible firearms, Western militaria. Again, if it is like the Antique Roadshow of all that good America's heritage stuff. We'll be right back talking to Scott Turner and kind of what the future looks like. Good morning, KBOI. Welcome back to the Great Idaho Show. This is Dylan Stalker. We're talking to Scott Turner, Sheriff Scott Turner of Boise County. There's a lot of conversation happening out there in the news about Boise County. You can even hear Nate Shelman of KBOI last Friday talking to former Senator Larry Craig about this whole problem of getting through Boise County with all the traffic and it really drafting on the resources of our good Sheriff Scott Turner, just trying to keep everybody safe, even when they're just passing through and not exactly being the most wise or respectful about it. Scott, as we get into this closing segment, I want to give you an opportunity to maybe share some of what your vision is or concerns or maybe calls to action for what you see for Boise County. There's a future coming up behind us, and my goal, the Great Idaho Show, is to try to raise awareness and get you some support because I see it every single day. It's a real thing, and if we don't get on it now, it's going to be troublesome. What do you see in the next 5 to 10 years for Boise County?
I mean, Boise County is going to grow. It's going to continue to grow,
sure,
at a smaller pace, but it's going to grow. And as the surrounding communities in the Treasure Valley grow, we're going to continue to see that huge influx of people, recreationalists, and traffic. What I really hope is that the state figures out a way to combat Highway 55. Highway 55 being one of the two main artery highways that I have in my county, going north and south, has just become overloaded, overwhelmed.
I think Larry Craig said it was 500% beyond capacity right now.
Yeah, by ITD's admission, the Highway 55 corridor, the sheer traffic volume has outgrown the corridor.
Sure.
What the answer to that is, nobody seems to know.
It's tough.
It's a hard road to tow when you have Valley County and McCall and Cascade right above us and, everything else north. And then you have all those people traversing south to Boise.
Sure.
I don't know what the answer is, but I really hope that the state puts some thought into this to come up with something, because we cannot continue to go down the road that we're going. And we haven't been for a while.
Yeah, this isn't just yesterday.
Yeah, this has been an ongoing issue for years.
Yeah. And
it just progressively gets worse and worse and worse. This year, it's really, really bad.
Been bad.
I mean, the last couple of weekends, Banks-Loman Road's been backed up, 5-10 miles.
It was a 2 hour on a Monday. It was a 2 hour wait coming from Garden Valley to Banks to make that left turn to Boise or right turn up to McCall. It was a 2-hour wait. It was like back to mile 8 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the traffic light that ITD put in there, it helps some. It helps during certain times.
Yeah. It's like
it's definitely
times.
Not the answer to everything.
Sure.
But they need to come up with something. I mean, we have so many struggles and so many issues. When we have an accident on Highway 55, we have to close the highway down.
I know it.
And then people get upset because we have the highway closed down for 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever it may be. But they need to understand the reasoning for that is that is the only way that we can get fire, EMS, deputies, tow trucks in there to get that accident scene taken care of and cleaned up.
Literally, like, because I just did one of those a week ago. There was the rollover. Gosh dang it. It's really close to the Idaho Power construction that's going on. There was a rollover right there. I think I was the 15th car back. And initially I'm like, gosh dang it. These people, and there's a real accident there. There is somebody's human body in danger. There is people that are injured, and people are so quick to just not even give a crumb about somebody's life over traffic and time.
Yeah, they definitely feel that their time is more important, right? I mean,
yeah.
I've been on a crash scene where it's a fatality. There's people that are deceased laying there covered up and, blood on the highway. And then you have these people walking up and they're screaming and yelling at you like, you need to let us through. You need to get the highway open.
Taking pictures and stuff. That's one of the most offensive things.
And it's like, you know what? This is what I'm dealing with. So it's a lot more important than, your tea time in McCall
sure.
or whatever the case may be.
I'm so suggesting some solutions. I have noticed that there are some traffic counters out there on the highway, until they quad lane it fully through. There's no point in putting in a double lane and putting it back to a single one. I lived in Haley, Idaho when they did that between Ketchum and Haley, and all it does is create more accidents by people trying to jib and jab up front to the other one. But until then, dare I say that the state of Idaho might consider some legislation that helps fund rural county sheriffs with these traffic problems, because it isn't coming from the residents of those counties to get you your budgets. And you are responsible for the safety and security of all these people traveling through. Maybe there's some correlation to the amount of the traffic to the support that you can get financially to put another deputy on or another emergency response vehicle or something.
Yeah, we get some help. So we put in for every single ITD grant that we can put in for. So
yeah.
ITD, they do all these traffic mobilizations, for seatbelt and aggressive driving and driving under the influence and all that stuff. The 100 Deadliest Days of Summer, you see news stuff
Absolutely.
on that.
We're living that right now.
We put in for those grant monies. And in fact, that's how the majority of our traffic enforcement gets done in the summertime. Is we put in for those grant dollars. I have deputies working overtime on their day off, being paid by those grant dollars out doing traffic enforcement, while the regular on-duty deputies are answering those calls for service. And that's really the only way that I can even remotely touch traffic enforcement in the summertime, just because of our volume of calls of service. And so we average between $50,000 and $100,000 in overtime in a summer on grant money that's paid for by ITD.
And that just doesn't even sound, that's an insult, the dollar amount you just reflected.
But it doesn't,
what it costs.
It doesn't help fire. It doesn't help EMS. Yeah. I mean, we have 10 fire departments in the county. They're all volunteer fire departments.
Yep. Just good, honest, living, working people that are just putting themselves out there.
And they're becoming just as overwhelmed as I am.
Sure.
I mean, they can't get volunteers. They have a small tax base, the ones that are taxing districts. And, some of them have a paid full-time chief or a paid full-time firefighter, but only a couple of fire departments have that. And so, you have these back-to-back crashes on a weekend on Highway 55 and, Horseshoe Bend Fire, who's 100% volunteer.
Yeah.
In Garden Valley, they have a couple paid people, but they're still volunteer. Those guys are going nonstop all weekend. And they're all volunteer.
Yeah.
They don't, get any money for it.
It's a really weird scenario. Volunteerism is big heart stuff, right?
Yep.
And they're doing it for the goodness of being good humans. And my goodness, it's like thankless almost.
Well, all of our ambulances are volunteer.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that, they come up, they expect that when they call, it's going to be like Boise Fire or something like that, right? They're going to be there within 8 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not the case. Sometimes you're going to get one guy that's 75 years old because he's the only one that's around for the fire department.
Sure.
Sometimes you might get 6. You just never know. And so, we spend a lot of time helping out the fire and EMS folks, just the same as they spend a lot of time helping us out by doing traffic control and doing other things. And, we help them with rescues or whatever the case may be, because it's the only way we can survive is we all work together as one team, one unit,
common mission,
one goal in mind, and that is to help and protect the people of the county. And, the majority of them are doing it for free.
It's pretty heavy, Scott, honestly. I see it. I know the folks of the Lowman Volunteer Fire Department and District pretty well, and I see it too. This question, it might be a tough one, but, it is, you have relationships with other people of the county and county leadership. Do you, as Boise County Sheriff, how do you feel supported by the county itself?
I feel extremely supported. I get along with all the other elected officials, the Board of County Commissioners. We all work together, the clerk's office, the assessor's office.
Sure.
We all have conversations and we all work together to help each other out. I put a roof on the planning and zoning office with the assessor. We stripped the metal off. We put the metal on.
You did it right. You were up there with screw guns and doing it, right? Yeah.
To save the county some money. That's the level of leadership that people have in Boise County is, my job is the sheriff, but if I can help the county out in any way and help save taxpayers money, I'm going to do it.
I believe it. I'm a participant. I'm a resident. I've engaged. I can see it. I'm here talking to Scott Turner today. This is the Great Idaho Show. This will be coming out on KBOI. You will hear it. It'll also go to thegreatidahoshow.com where you can listen to it 24 hours a day. Dylan Stalker, I want to talk to every sheriff of Idaho. Scott, I come to you first because I'm living it. I'm seeing it, and I can see the challenges, and I'm nervous for our rural county sheriffs that are trying to do big budget stuff on little to no budget at all with just nothing but heart. This is Dylan Stalker, The Great Idaho Show.